The rain came down hard on the mudflats of Velis 4. It fell in heavy sheets, turning the ground into a thick soup of brown and gray. The water rose fast, faster than anyone had expected, and in the middle of it all, a young Vellani female named Riva was sinking. She had stopped fighting. Her thin arms were too tired to push against the mud anymore. Her pale blue skin was covered in dirt, and her large, dark eyes stared up at the gray sky. The rain hit her face, but she did not blink. She just waited for the end. It was supposed to be this way. That is what Elder Tovar had told her. That is what her people believed. Riva was born different. Among the Vellani, everyone could sing. Their songs were sacred. They used them to pray, to celebrate, to mourn. A Vellani without song was like a star without light. And Riva had never made a sound in her life. She was mute, silent, empty. Her mother had cried when she was born, not from joy, but from shame. Her father had turned away and never looked at her again. The village tolerated her because they had to, but no one loved her. No one wanted her. She was the silent one, the broken soul, the mistake. Every year when the great flood came, the Vellani moved to higher ground. They packed their things, gathered their families, and walked together to the hills. It was a time of unity, a time of song. But this year, when the waters rose, Elder Tovar had made a decision. "The silent one stays behind," he had said. His voice was calm, like he was talking about the weather. "The flood will take her. It is the will of the ancestors. Her soul was never complete. Let the mud return her to where she belongs." No one argued. No one even looked at Riva. They just turned and walked away, leaving her alone on the flat land as the water began to rise. Riva had tried to follow them at first. She had run after the group, her feet slipping in the wet ground. But 2 of the village guards had pushed her back. They did not hit her. They did not need to. They just stood like a wall until the others were gone, and then they left too. Now she was alone. The water was up to her waist. The mud pulled at her legs like hungry hands. She had tried to walk, but every step made her sink deeper. She had tried to crawl, but her arms gave out. She had tried to scream, but no sound came from her throat. It never did. So she stopped. She let the mud take her. She closed her eyes and thought about her life. It had not been a happy one. She had spent most of it hiding from the other children who threw stones at her, hiding from the adults who whispered about her when she walked by, hiding from her own family who treated her like a ghost. But there had been small moments of light. She remembered the old woman who lived at the edge of the village, the one who gave her food sometimes and smiled at her without pity. She remembered the day she found a small flower growing in the rocks, and she had sat with it for hours, just looking at its colors. She remembered the night sky full of stars, and how she used to imagine flying up to meet them. Those memories felt far away now. The cold water was rising. It touched her chest. Her breathing became shallow. She was so tired, so very tired. Maybe Elder Tovar was right. Maybe she was never meant to live. Maybe her soul really was incomplete. Maybe dying here in the mud was the only ending she deserved. A tear rolled down her cheek, mixing with the rain. She did not want to die. Even after everything, even after all the pain, she wanted to live. But wanting was not enough. It had never been enough. The water reached her neck. She tilted her head back, trying to keep her face above the surface. Her heart was beating fast. Fear filled her chest. She did not want to drown. She did not want to feel the water fill her lungs. She did not want to... Something moved in the distance. Riva's eyes opened. Through the rain, she saw a shape. It was tall, taller than any Vellani. It moved on 2 legs, running fast across the flooded ground. It wore strange clothes, tight and dark. Its skin was not blue like hers. It was a soft brown color she had never seen before. The creature was running toward her. Riva's mind could not understand what she was seeing. This was not a Villani. This was not any species she knew. Was it a spirit? A demon? A dream sent by the ancestors to guide her to the other side? The figure reached her. It fell to its knees in the water beside her. Riva saw its face clearly now. 2 eyes like hers, but smaller. A nose, a mouth, hair the color of night. It was breathing hard. It looked scared. No, not scared. Worried. The creature reached into the mud and grabbed her arm. It pulled. The mud fought back, but the creature was strong. It pulled again, harder this time. Riva felt her body shift. The mud made a sucking sound as it released her legs. The creature lifted her out of the water. It held her against its chest like she weighed nothing at all. She could feel its heart beating, fast and strong, alive. It looked down at her with those strange, small eyes. Its mouth moved. Sounds came out, words she did not understand, but the voice was soft, gentle, kind. Riva had never heard kindness before. She did not know what to do with it. The creature started moving. It ran through the water, holding her tight. The rain kept falling, but Riva did not feel cold anymore. She felt something else, something she could not name. Her vision was getting dark around the edges. She was too weak to stay awake. But before she closed her eyes, she looked up at the creature's face one more time. It was still looking at her, still holding her, still running. For the first time in her life, someone had come back for her. Someone had chosen to save her. She did not know why. She did not know who this creature was or where it was taking her. But as the darkness took her, Riva felt something she had never felt before. Hope. Kang Do-yun ran through the flood with the alien girl in his arms. His boots splashed in the rising water. His lungs burned. His muscles screamed at him to stop. But he did not stop. He could not. He had been checking the sensors near the eastern ridge when he saw her. A small blue figure, half buried in the mud, staring up at the sky like she was already dead. His training told him to report it and walk away. The rules were clear. No contact with native species. No interference with local populations. Observe only. But Do-hyun was not good at following rules that made no sense to him. And leaving a dying girl in the mud made no sense at all. The outpost appeared through the rain. It was a small building made of metal and plastic, built to survive the harsh weather of Velis 4. Do-yun kicked the door open and stumbled inside. Water dripped from his clothes and pooled on the floor. "Soo-jin!" he shouted. "I need help!" Yoon Soo-jin came running from the medical room. She was a small woman with short black hair and quick eyes. She stopped when she saw what Do-yun was carrying. "What did you do?" she asked. Her voice was not angry, just shocked. "Found her in the flood zone," Do-yun said. He laid the girl on the examination table. "She was drowning. I couldn't just leave her." Soo-jin moved fast. She grabbed her medical scanner and passed it over the girl's body. The device beeped and showed numbers on its screen. "She's hypothermic, weak heartbeat, multiple cuts and bruises. She's been through something bad." "Can you save her?" Soo-jin looked at him. There was a question in her eyes, one she did not ask out loud. Instead, she just nodded. "I'll try." For the next 3 hours, Soo-jin worked. She cleaned the girl's wounds. She warmed her body slowly. She gave her fluids through a thin tube in her arm. Do-hyun stayed in the corner of the room, watching. He did not know why he cared so much about this strange blue creature. He just knew that he did. The girl woke up once during the treatment. Her large, dark eyes opened wide with fear. She tried to move, to escape, but she was too weak. Do-hyun stepped forward and knelt beside the table. He put his hand near hers, not touching, just close enough for her to see. "You're safe here," he said softly. "No one will hurt you." She did not understand his words. He knew that. But something in his voice must have reached her because she stopped fighting. She looked at him for a long moment, her eyes searching his face. Then she closed her eyes and went back to sleep. Sujin finished her work near midnight. The girl was stable. She would live. "You know we're going to get in trouble for this," Sujin said as she washed her hands. Do-hyun nodded. "I know. Command is going to lose their minds. We broke about 12 different regulations today." "I know." Sujin dried her hands and looked at the sleeping girl. Her expression softened. "She's young, maybe 18 or 19 in their years, and those wounds, some of them are old. She's been hurt before, many times." Do-hyun felt a cold anger rise in his chest. "By who?" "I don't know. But whoever did this didn't care if she lived or died." Sujin paused. "Actually, looking at where you found her and how she was positioned, I think someone wanted her to die, Do-hyun. I think she was left there on purpose." The anger grew hotter. Do-hyun looked at the girl, so small and fragile on the table. Her pale blue skin was still dirty in places. Her thin body showed signs of poor nutrition. She had not been cared for. She had been ignored, maybe abused, and then thrown away like garbage. "Then it's a good thing I found her," he said quietly. The next morning, the trouble arrived. A message came through the communication system. Commander Solis, the leader of the Galactic Observation Corps in this sector, was on her way. She had received a report about unauthorized native contact, and she wanted answers. Do-hyun read the message 3 times. Then he deleted it and went to check on the girl. She was awake. She sat up on the table, her dark eyes moving around the room, looking at everything. When Do-hyun entered, she froze. Her body went tense, like she was ready to run or fight, but she did not move. Do-hyun raised his hands slowly, showing her he meant no harm. He walked to a chair and sat down, keeping distance between them. Then he pointed to himself. "Do-hyun," he said. "My name is Do-hyun." The girl watched him carefully. She did not speak. He pointed to himself again. "Do-hyun." Then he pointed to her and raised his eyebrows in question. She seemed to understand. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. A look of pain crossed her face. She closed her mouth and looked down at her hands. She could not speak. Do-hyun realized this with a heavy heart. She was mute. But then she did something unexpected. She raised her hand and drew a shape in the air. Her finger moved slowly, carefully. She was writing something, a symbol, or maybe a letter. Do-hyun grabbed a tablet from the nearby desk. He turned it on and handed it to her. She looked at it with confusion at first, but when she touched the screen and saw a line appear, her eyes went wide. She started drawing immediately. When she finished, she held up the tablet. On the screen was a single word, written in a script Do-hyun did not recognize. But underneath it, the translation program had already started working. "Reva," Do-hyun read aloud. "Your name is Reva?" The girl, Reva, nodded slowly. A tiny smile appeared on her face. It was the first time Do-hyun had seen her smile. He smiled back. "Hello, Reva. Welcome to our home." At that moment, Sujin walked in. She saw Reva awake and smiled too. She walked over slowly, not wanting to scare her, and waved her hand in greeting. Reva watched her with curiosity but not fear. "She's communicating," Do-hyun told Sujin. "Through writing. She can't speak, but she can write." Sujin looked at the tablet, and then at Reva. Smart girl, very smart. They spent the rest of the morning teaching Reva simple things. They showed her food and water. They showed her the bathroom. They showed her a bed where she could sleep. Reva learned fast. She watched everything with her big dark eyes, taking in every detail, remembering everything. By afternoon, she had learned 5 human words: yes, no, food, water, and safe. She used the last word the most. Every few minutes. She would point at the walls, the doors, the windows, and then look at Do-Yun with a question in her eyes. And every time he would nod and say, "Safe. You are safe here." She was starting to believe him. Do-Yun could see it in the way her shoulders relaxed a little more each time, in the way she stopped flinching when someone moved too fast near her, in the way she looked at him and Sujin, not with fear, but with something that might someday become trust. Commander Solus arrived at sunset. Her ship landed outside the outpost with a loud hum. Do-Yun watched through the window as she stepped out and walked toward the door. The real trouble was just beginning. Commander Solus was a tall woman with gray hair and cold eyes. She wore a uniform that was perfectly clean and perfectly pressed. Everything about her said discipline and control. She walked into the outpost like she owned it, and in a way, she did. "Where is it?" she asked. Her voice was flat and businesslike. Do-Yun stood between her and the door to the medical room. "Her name is Reva, and she is not an it." Solus looked at him for a long moment. Then she walked past him and opened the door herself. Reva was sitting on the bed, holding the tablet Do-Yun had given her. When she saw the new human, she pressed herself against the wall, her eyes wide with fear. "Interesting," Solus said. She did not go closer. She just stood in the doorway and observed. A Vellani female. Young. Appears malnourished. Signs of prior physical trauma. She looked back at Do-Hyun. Why was she in the flood zone during a migration event? "I don't know," Do-Hyun said. "I found her half buried in the mud, drowning. I brought her here, that's all I know. You broke protocol. Yes. You could lose your position for this." "I know." Solus studied him. Something changed in her expression, just a little. "You don't seem worried." Do-Hyun shrugged. "I did what was right. I'll accept whatever punishment comes, but I won't apologize for saving a life." Solus was quiet for a moment. Then she turned back to look at Reva. The girl was still pressed against the wall, trembling slightly. Solus sighed. "I'll need to file a report," she said. "For now, continue caring for her. I'll return in 1 week to assess the situation. Do not let her leave this facility." She walked out without another word. Her ship lifted off minutes later, disappearing into the clouds. 1 week turned into 2. 2 weeks turned into 3. Commander Solus sent messages but did not return. She was dealing with other problems in the sector, bigger problems than one rescued alien girl. Do-Hyun and Sujin used the time wisely. Reva grew stronger every day. The color returned to her skin. The fear began to leave her eyes. She ate well, slept well, and learned faster than anyone Do-Hyun had ever seen. She could not speak, but she could communicate. The tablet became her voice. She wrote words in her language, and the translation program turned them into human words. At first, the conversations were simple: food, water, sleep, thank you. But soon, they became deeper. One morning, Reva drew a picture on the tablet. It showed a group of figures walking up a hill. At the bottom of the hill, alone, was a single small figure. Rain fell from the sky. "This is you?" Sujin asked, pointing at the small figure. Reva nodded. "Your people left you behind?" Another nod. This time, a tear rolled down her cheek. Do-Hyun felt the anger rise again. "Why? Why would they leave you?" Reva touched her throat. Then she opened her mouth and closed it. No sound came out. She wrote a word on the tablet. Silent. "Because you can't speak?" Sujin asked. Her voice was soft, but Do-Hyun could hear the horror underneath. Reva wrote more words. "Among my people, song is everything. Those who cannot sing have no soul. We are called incomplete, wrong, broken. When the flood comes, we are left behind. It is believed to be mercy. Our souls return to the mud, where they can be reborn whole." Do-Hyun read the words 3 times. Each time, they made him angrier. "That's not mercy," he said. That's murder. Riva looked at him with surprise. No one had ever called it murder before. To her people, it was just the way things were, the way things had always been. But now, looking at Do-hyun's face, seeing the anger there, she began to wonder. Maybe the humans saw something her people could not. Maybe being silent was not the same as being broken. The days passed. Do-hyun took Reva on walks around the outpost. He showed her the machines that cleaned the air and the water. He showed her the garden where they grew vegetables. He showed her the telescope that let them see the stars. Reva was amazed by everything. The humans had come from so far away, from a world she could not even imagine. They had crossed the darkness between stars just to study her planet, and yet, despite all their knowledge and power, they had chosen to save her, a nobody, a silent one, a mistake. Why? She asked Do-hyun this question one evening as they sat on the roof watching the sunset. The sky was orange and purple, and the air was cool and fresh. Why did you save me? Do-hyun read her words and thought for a moment. Then he said, because you were dying, and I could help. But your rules say not to interfere. You could be punished. Some rules are wrong, Do-hyun said simply. When a rule tells you to let someone die, that rule is wrong, and wrong rules should be broken. Reva stared at him. She had never heard anyone say anything like that before. In her village, rules were absolute. The elders made them, and everyone followed them. To question was to sin. To break was to be destroyed. But here was this strange creature from another world, telling her that rules could be wrong, that some things were more important than obedience. She did not know what to do with this idea. So she just sat beside him and watched the sun go down, feeling something warm grow in her chest. The next morning, everything changed. Sujin burst into Reva's room just after sunrise. Her face was pale. We have a problem. Do-hyun and Reva followed her to the main room. Through the window, they could see a group of figures approaching the outpost. They were Villani, about 10 of them. They wore formal robes and carried long staffs. At the front of the group was an old male with white markings on his face. His expression was hard and cold. That's Elder Tovar, Reva wrote on her tablet. Her hands were shaking. He is the leader of my village. He is the one who left me to die. Do-hyun's jaw tightened. He put a hand on Reva's shoulder. Stay here. Stay hidden. I'll handle this. He walked outside to meet the delegation. Sujin followed him, standing at his side. Elder Tovar stopped a few meters away. He looked at the humans with open disgust. You have taken something that belongs to us, he said. The translator in Do-hyun's ear turned his singing speech into flat human words. The Silent One. We have come to reclaim her. She doesn't belong to you, Do-hyun said. She's a person, not property. She is Villani. She falls under our laws, our customs. You have no right to keep her. Do-hyun did not move. She was dying in the mud. Your people left her there to die. I saved her. Now she is under my protection. Elder Tovar's eyes narrowed. You do not understand our ways, human. The Silent Ones are incomplete souls. Their deaths during the flood are sacred. It is not cruelty. It is release. You have interfered with something you cannot comprehend. I understand perfectly, Do-hyun said. His voice was calm but hard. You throw away the people you consider worthless. You call it tradition. You call it sacred. But it's just killing, and I won't be part of it. Behind the outpost window, Reva watched. She could not hear the words, but she could see Do-hyun standing tall, refusing to back down. For her. He was fighting for her. No one had ever fought for her before. Elder Tovar raised his staff. This is not a request, human. Return the Silent One or face the consequences. We will not ask again. Do-hyun crossed his arms. Then don't ask. The answer is no. The two groups stared at each other in the morning light. Neither moved. Neither spoke. The standoff had begun. The sun rose higher in the sky. Neither group moved. Do-yun stood with his arms crossed. Elder Tovar stood with his staff raised. The air between them was thick with tension. Finally, Sujin stepped forward. "Perhaps we should talk inside," she said. Her voice was calm, professional. "Standing out here serves no one." Elder Tovar looked at her with cold eyes. Then he nodded slowly. "Very well. We will talk. But the outcome will not change." They moved into the outpost's main room. Do-hyun made sure Reva stayed hidden in the back, away from the delegation's view. He did not trust these people. He did not trust them at all. The negotiation began badly and got worse. Elder Tovar sat in a chair like it was a throne. His followers stood behind him in a perfect line. Their faces showed no emotion. They looked at the humans like they were looking at insects. "Let me explain something to you," Tovar said through the translator. "Among the Villani, the song is life. It is how we speak to the ancestors. It is how we connect to the eternal. Those who cannot sing are cut off from this connection. They have no voice in this life or the next. They are shadows, echoes of souls that failed to form completely." Sujin frowned. "And this is why you leave them to die?" "We do not kill them," Tovar said sharply. "We return them to the source. The mud of the flood is sacred. It is where all life began on our world. When a silent one sinks into the mud, their incomplete soul dissolves and returns to the beginning. In time, it may try again. It may be reborn whole." He paused. "What we do is not murder. It is mercy." Do-hyun shook his head. "You're telling yourself a pretty story to feel better about drowning children. That's all this is." Tovar's eyes flashed with anger. "You understand nothing, human. Your species is young. You have not walked among the stars for long. You do not know the deep truths of the universe. The soul must be complete to find peace. We do what we must to ensure this." "And Riva?" Do-hyun asked. "What about her? She's alive. She's healthy. She's smart and kind and learning new things every day. Does that sound like an incomplete soul to you?" Tovar was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "The fact that she lives is an error, a mistake caused by your interference. She should have returned to the mud. Now she is trapped in a form that cannot reach the eternal. You have not saved her, human. You have cursed her." Sujin spoke up. "We've run medical scans on Riva. Her brain, her heart, her entire body, everything is normal. The only thing different about her is that she cannot produce sound from her throat. It's a physical condition, not a spiritual one. She's not incomplete. She's just quiet." Tovar waved his hand dismissively. "Your machines cannot measure the soul. They cannot see what we see. The silent ones are marked by the ancestors themselves. It is not for us to question why." The argument went in circles. Tovar insisted that Riva belonged to the village and must be returned. Do-hyun refused to let her go. Sujin tried to find middle ground, but there was none to find. After 2 hours, Tovar stood up. His patience was clearly at an end. "You speak of her rights," he said, "but among the Villani, she has no rights. She never did. From the moment she was born without song, she was marked for return. Her parents knew this. The village knew this. Everyone knew except, it seems, her." He walked toward the door, then stopped. He turned back to face Do-hyun with a cold smile. "Let me tell you something, human. Reva's mother asked me to leave her in the flood. She begged me to do it. She said she could not bear the shame any longer. She wanted her daughter gone so she could finally hold her head up in the village." Do-hyun's hands clenched into fists. "You're lying." "I have no reason to lie. The truth is painful enough." Tovar's smile faded. The silent one was never wanted. Not by her parents. Not by her village. Not by anyone. You are holding on to a creature that the universe itself rejected. Why? What possible value can she have to you? The room went silent. Do-Yun felt rage burning in his chest, but he forced himself to stay calm. He would not give Tovar the satisfaction of seeing him lose control. She has value because she exists, Do-Yun said quietly, because she thinks and feels and hopes, because she smiles when she learns a new word, because she watches the stars with wonder in her eyes, because she never gave up, even when everyone around her wanted her dead. He stepped closer to Tovar. You ask what value she has? She has the same value as any living being. And I will not let you take her back to be murdered just because your traditions say she's not good enough. Tovar stared at him. For a moment, something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, maybe. Or confusion. As if he could not understand how anyone could care about a silent one. Then his expression hardened again. You have 3 days, human. 3 days to return her to us willingly. After that, we will take her by force, and your little outpost will not be able to stop us. He walked out. His followers marched after him in perfect order. Soon they were gone, disappearing into the trees beyond the clearing. Sujin let out a long breath. Well, that went terribly. Do-Yun did not answer. He walked to the back room where Reva was hiding. She was sitting in the corner, hugging her knees to her chest. When she saw him, she looked up with fear in her eyes. He knelt in front of her. They're gone. For now. She grabbed her tablet and wrote quickly. They want me back. They will kill me. Yes, Do-Yun said honestly. That's what they want. Reva's eyes filled with tears. Maybe I should go. I do not want you to be hurt because of me. I am not worth it. Do-Yun took her hand gently. Listen to me, Reva. You are worth it. You are worth fighting for. And I am not going to let them take you. Not now. Not ever. She looked at him with disbelief. No one had ever told her she was worth anything. Her whole life, she had been told the opposite. She was a burden, a shame, a mistake to be erased. But this human, this strange, stubborn, kind human, looked at her like she mattered, like her life had meaning, like she was someone worth protecting. She did not know how to feel. She did not know what to believe, but she held his hand tighter and did not let go. That night, Sujin called Commander Solis. She explained the situation in full detail, the rescue, the recovery, the delegation, the threats, everything. Solis listened without interruption. When Sujin finished, there was a long pause. This is a complicated situation, Solis finally said. The Villani are protected under the non-interference charter. We're not supposed to get involved in their cultural practices. Their cultural practice is drowning children who can't sing, Sujin said flatly. Another pause. I understand, and I don't like it any more than you do. But the rules exist for a reason. Some rules are wrong, Sujin said. She looked at Do-Hyun when she said it. Solis was quiet for a long moment. Then she said something unexpected. There may be another way. Let me look into it. I'll contact you tomorrow. The line went dead. Do-Hyun and Sujin looked at each other. Neither knew what Solis was planning. But for the first time since the delegation arrived, they felt something like hope. 3 days was not much time. But maybe it would be enough. Commander Solis arrived the next morning. Her ship landed smoothly outside the outpost, and she walked in carrying a folder of documents. Her face was serious but not angry. For the first time since Do-Hyun had met her, she looked almost human. I found something, she said, placing the folder on the table. A possible solution, but it's not simple, and it requires Reva's cooperation. They sat down together, Do-Yun, Sujin, Solis, and Reva. The young Villani woman watched the commander with careful eyes. She had learned enough human words now to follow basic conversations, but the tablet was still her main voice. Solis opened the folder. Under Section 7 of the Galactic Union Charter, any sentient being who faces death or serious harm due to their species' cultural practices can request protected status. It's called asylum. If granted, that person becomes a citizen of the Union itself, not bound by the laws of their home world. Asylum, Sujin repeated. So Riva could stay with us legally? If she requests it herself, yes. And if the Union approves the request. Solus looked at Reva. But this is important. She has to choose it. We cannot choose for her. The request must come from her own free will. Reva wrote on her tablet. What happens if I request this asylum? Solus answered carefully. You would be protected under Union law. The Villani could not legally take you. You would have the right to live, work, and travel anywhere in Union space. You would be free. What happens to my people if I do this? Nothing directly. The Union does not interfere with internal cultural practices. We don't have the right to tell the Villani how to live, but your case would be recorded. It would be proof that their practice exists. In time, that record might lead to change, or it might not. I cannot promise anything. Riva was quiet for a long moment. She stared at the tablet in her hands, thinking hard. Do-hyun watched her with worry. He could see the conflict on her face. Even after everything, after being abandoned, after nearly dying, after learning that her own mother had asked for her death, part of her still felt connected to her people. She had grown up believing their teachings. Some part of her still wondered if they were right. Finally, she wrote, If I do this, I can never go back. I will be alone forever. You won't be alone, Do-hyun said gently. You'll have us. Riva looked at him, then at Sujin, then at Commander Solus, who nodded slowly. You would keep me, even though I am broken? Sujin reached across the table and took Riva's hand. You are not broken, Riva. You never were, and yes, we would keep you, for as long as you want to stay. Riva's eyes filled with tears. She had spent her whole life being told she was worthless, a burden, a mistake. And now these strangers from another world were telling her she mattered, that she belonged, that they wanted her. It was almost too much to believe. She thought about her village, about the cold looks and cruel words, about the children who threw stones at her, about her parents who refused to meet her eyes, about Elder Tovar standing over her as the flood rose, telling her that her death was a blessing. She thought about Do-hyun running through the rain to save her. About Sujin working through the night to heal her wounds. About the warm food and soft bed and gentle words that had filled her days since coming here. She thought about the stars she had watched through the telescope, the vast universe full of possibilities she had never imagined. She thought about what it meant to be free. Slowly, she picked up the tablet and wrote a single word. Stay. Commander Solus nodded. Then let's begin the process. The next hour was filled with paperwork. Solus explained each document carefully, making sure Riva understood what she was signing. The request for asylum, the statement of circumstances, the formal rejection of her home world's authority over her. Riva signed each one with a shaking hand. Every signature felt like cutting a thread. With each cut, she became less Villani and more something else, something new. When it was done, Solus gathered the documents and stood up. I'll submit these today. The Union Council will review them within 48 hours. Given the circumstances, I expect they will approve. And the Villani delegation? Do-hyun asked. Their deadline is tomorrow. Solus's expression hardened. I'll inform Elder Tovar myself. Riva is now under Union protection. Any attempt to take her by force will be considered an act of aggression against the Galactic Union. I don't think even Tovar is foolish enough to start that fight. She left to find the delegation. Do-hyun, Sujin, and Riva sat together in the quiet outpost. Sujin smiled at Riva. How do you feel? Riva thought about the question, then she wrote. Scared, happy, sad, everything at once. That makes sense, Do-hyun said. You just changed your whole life. It's okay to feel mixed up. Riva looked at him. Thank you. For everything. I do not know why you helped me, but I am grateful. Do-hyun smiled. You don't need to thank me. I just did what anyone should do. Riva shook her head. No, not anyone. No one in my village would have done what you did. No one in the galaxy, maybe. You are different. She paused, then added, You are good. Do-hyun did not know what to say. He was not used to being called good. He was just an engineer, a nobody, really. He had come to Velis 4 to study soil composition and weather patterns. He had never planned to be anyone's hero. But sitting here with Riva, seeing the gratitude in her eyes, he felt something shift inside him. Maybe being good was not about plans. Maybe it was just about choices. Small moments where you could walk away or stay, where you could follow the rules or do what was right. He had made his choice, and he would make it again, 1,000 times over. That evening, Commander Solis returned. Her face was unreadable. I spoke to Elder Tovar, she said. And? Sujin asked. He was, not happy. He called us invaders, monsters, destroyers of sacred tradition. He said we had stolen a soul that belonged to the mud. He said we would face consequences. Solis paused. Then he took his delegation and left. They're returning to the village. So it's over? Do-hyun asked. Solis hesitated. The legal part, yes. Riva's asylum request has been submitted. Tovar knows he cannot touch her now. But... She looked out the window at the darkening sky. I've been in this job a long time. I've seen how people react when they lose something they thought they owned. Pride is a dangerous thing, and Tovar has a lot of pride. Do-hyun understood what she was saying. The official fight was over, but that did not mean the danger was gone. Still, for tonight, they could rest. Riva was safe. The documents were filed. The law was on their side. Riva fell asleep that night in her small bed, wrapped in a warm blanket. For the first time since she could remember, she did not dream of drowning in the mud. Instead, she dreamed of flying among the stars, free and light, with nothing holding her down. In the next room, Do-hyun stayed awake. He sat by the window, watching the darkness outside. He had a feeling this was not over, not truly. He was right. 2 months passed. The rainy season ended. The sun returned to Velis 4, warm and golden. The mud flats dried into solid ground, and the world became green again. Riva changed too. She was not the same frightened girl who had nearly drowned in the flood. She stood taller now. She smiled more often. She moved through the outpost like she belonged there, because she did. Her asylum request had been approved within a week. The Galactic Union Council had reviewed her case and granted her full protected status. She was now officially a citizen of the Union. Not Vellani, not human, something in between, something new. Sujin had given her a job in the medical bay. Riva learned fast. She could not speak, but she could listen. She could watch. She could understand. Soon she was helping with basic tasks, organizing supplies, cleaning equipment, keeping records. Sujin said she had a gift for it. A natural ability to see what needed to be done and do it quietly and well. Do-hyun continued his work on the terraforming project, but he spent his evenings with Riva. They sat on the roof and watched the stars. They walked through the forest and looked at the plants and animals. They talked, he with his voice, she with her tablet, about everything and nothing. Riva told him about her childhood, the loneliness, the fear, the small moments of beauty she had found despite the pain. Do-hyun told her about Earth, about oceans and mountains and cities full of people, about his family back home, about why he had chosen to travel to the stars. They learned each other, piece by piece, and somewhere along the way, something grew between them, something neither of them had expected. One night, as they sat on the roof, Riva wrote a question on her tablet. Why do humans care about others so much? Even strangers, even aliens. Why does it matter to you? Do-hyun thought about the question for a long time. Then he said, I don't know if I can explain it. It's just how we are. We see someone hurting and we want to help. We see someone alone and we want to be their friend. Maybe it's because we know what it feels like to hurt and be alone. Maybe we help others because we hope someone would help us. He looked at her. Or maybe we do it because helping feels right. Because when we make someone else's life better, our own life feels better too. Riva read his words carefully. Then she wrote, That is beautiful. I wish my people thought this way. Maybe someday they will, Do-hyun said. Change takes time. But it happens. Riva was not sure she believed him, but she wanted to. She wanted to believe that somewhere, some silent child was being held instead of thrown away. She wanted to believe the universe could become kinder. But the universe was not kind that night. The attack came just after midnight. Riva was asleep in her room. Do-hyun was reading in the main area. Soo-jin was in the medical bay, catching up on reports. The first sign of trouble was the alarm, a sharp, loud sound that cut through the quiet like a knife. The outpost's security system had detected movement, multiple figures approaching from the north. Do-hyun grabbed a flashlight and ran to the window. In the darkness, he could see shapes moving between the trees. They were Villani, at least a dozen of them. They carried weapons, long blades that glowed faintly in the moonlight. This was not a delegation. This was a raid. Soo-jin! Do-hyun shouted. Wake Riva! Get to the safe room! He ran for the equipment locker where they kept emergency supplies. There was no time to call for help. The nearest Union ship was hours away. They were on their own. The front door exploded inward. Wood and metal flew across the room. Do-hyun dove behind a table as 3 Villani warriors rushed inside. They moved fast, their eyes scanning the room. Find the silent one of them shouted. She must be returned to the mud. Honor demands it. Do-hyun recognized the voice. It was Tovar's son, a young male named Kirin. He had been part of the delegation 2 months ago. He had stood behind his father with cold, hateful eyes. And now he was here to finish what his father had started. Do-hyun grabbed a metal rod from the floor and swung it at the nearest warrior. The blow connected with the Villani's arm, knocking the blade from his hand. But before Do-hyun could swing again, another warrior tackled him from behind. They fought. Do-hyun was not a soldier, but he was desperate. He threw punches, kicks, anything he could. He took hits, too, a fist to his ribs, a blade that cut his shoulder. Pain flared through his body, but he kept fighting. More warriors poured into the outpost. The sound of breaking glass came from the back rooms. Soo-jin screamed. Riva screamed, too, not with her voice, but with her eyes, her hands, her whole body as 2 warriors dragged her into the main room. No! Do-hyun tried to break free, but 3 Villani held him down. Blood ran down his arm and dripped onto the floor. Kirin walked toward Riva. His face was twisted with disgust. You should have died in the flood, Silent One. You have brought shame upon our people, upon my father, upon our ancestors. Tonight, we correct this mistake. Riva was trembling. Her eyes were wide with terror. She looked at Do-hyun, bloody and beaten on the floor. She looked at Soo-jin, held against the wall by another warrior. She looked at the blade in Kirin's hand. This was it. This was the end she had been waiting for her whole life. The end her people had promised her since the day she was born. The mud had not taken her, so now the blade would. But as Kirin raised his weapon, something changed. Riva thought about Do-hyun, about how he had run through the flood to save her, about how he had fought against his own people's rules to keep her alive. about how he had looked at her with kindness, not pity, about how he had made her believe, for the first time in her life, that she was worth something. He was bleeding on the floor because of her. He might die because of her. No, not because of her. For her. Something sparked inside Riva. Not song. She would never have song. But something else. Something stronger. Something that had been sleeping deep inside her, waiting for the moment she needed it most. She twisted free from the warrior's grip. They were surprised by her sudden strength. She stumbled forward, placing herself between Kieran and Do-Yun. Kieran laughed. "What are you doing, Silent One? You cannot fight. You cannot even scream. Step aside and accept your fate." Riva opened her mouth. Her throat moved. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, for the first time in her life, she spoke. "He is mine." The words were rough and broken. They scraped out of her throat like stones over sand. But they were real. They were audible. They were words. Every Villani in the room froze. Kieran stared at her with wide eyes. The warriors holding Do-Hyun loosened their grip in shock. Reva spoke again, stronger this time. "You will not touch him." Her voice was not beautiful. It was not a song, but it was hers, and it carried a weight that made even Kieran step back. "Impossible," he whispered. "The Silent Ones cannot speak. It is known. It is—" "You know nothing," Riva said. Each word was an effort, but she kept going. "You left me to die because I could not sing. You called me broken, empty, wrong. But I am still here. I am still alive, and I will not let you hurt the people who saved me." She picked up a fallen blade from the floor. She did not know how to use it, but she held it steady, pointing at Kieran's chest. "Leave, now, or I will make you leave." The standoff lasted only seconds, but it felt like hours. Kieran's face twisted through a dozen emotions: shock, anger, fear, confusion. Finally, he lowered his weapon. "This is not over," he hissed. Then he turned and ran, his warriors following close behind. The outpost fell silent. Reva dropped the blade. Her legs gave out, and she collapsed to her knees. Do-Yun crawled toward her. His face was bruised and bloody, but he was smiling. "You spoke," he said, his voice full of wonder. "Reva, you spoke." Reva looked at her hands. They were shaking. Her throat hurt. Her whole body felt empty. Drained. But she was alive. Do-Hyun was alive. They all were. "I spoke," she whispered. The words felt strange in her mouth. Strange, but good. She had found her voice at last. Not the song her people demanded. Something better. Her own. The morning after the attack, help finally arrived. 2 Union ships landed outside the outpost, their lights cutting through the dawn mist. Soldiers poured out, securing the area. Medical teams rushed inside. Do-Yun was badly hurt. The blade wound on his shoulder had cut deep, and he had lost a lot of blood. The medics worked fast, cleaning and sealing the wound. He drifted in and out of consciousness. But every time he opened his eyes, Reva was there. She sat beside him, holding his hand, watching him with worried eyes. "You need rest," Sujin told her gently. "You saved us. Now let us take care of him." Reva shook her head. She would not leave his side, not after everything he had done for her. The attackers were captured within hours. Kieran and his warriors had not gotten far. Union soldiers found them hiding in a cave system north of the village. They were arrested and taken into custody, charged with assault, attempted murder, and violation of protected status laws. Commander Solis arrived by midday. She walked through the damaged outpost with a dark expression, taking in the broken doors, the bloodstains, the chaos left behind. When she saw Reva sitting beside Do-Hyun's bed, her expression softened slightly. "I heard what you did," she said. "You stood up to them. You found your voice." Reva looked up at her. It was always there, she said slowly. Her voice was still rough, but getting smoother with each word. I just needed a reason to use it. Solus nodded. The council has called an emergency session. They want to hear from you directly. Are you willing to speak? Riva hesitated. The thought of speaking before the Galactic Council, the rulers of 1,000 worlds, was terrifying. But then she looked at Do-Yun, sleeping peacefully beside her. She thought about everything he had sacrificed for her. The least she could do was tell their story. Yes, she said. I will speak. 3 days later, Do-Hyun was awake and recovering. His shoulder was wrapped in bandages and his face was still bruised, but his eyes were bright and clear. He insisted on watching the council session with Riva, even though Sujin told him he should rest. I'm not missing this, he said firmly. I'll rest when it's over. The session was held through a transmission link. Riva sat in front of a camera in the outpost's main room, while across the galaxy, the council members watched from their grand chamber. There were beings from 100 different species, tall, short, scaled, furred, winged, tentacled, all of them focused on the small blue female on their screens. Commander Solis spoke first. She explained the situation clearly and completely. The rescue, the asylum request, the failed negotiations, the attack. She presented evidence and testimony, and then she called on Riva to share her story. Riva had practiced what she would say, but when the moment came, she forgot her prepared words. Instead, she spoke from her heart. I was born silent, she began. Her voice trembled, but did not break. Among my people, this means I have no soul. It means I am a mistake, a burden, something to be thrown away. She paused, gathering her courage. When I was young, I believed this. I believed I was worthless. I believed the world would be better without me. I waited for the flood that would take me away. I thought it was the only ending I deserved. She looked at Do-Yun, who gave her an encouraging nod. But then a human found me. He could have walked away. His rules told him to walk away, but he chose to save me instead. He carried me out of the mud and said words I did not understand, but I understood his kindness. I understood that he saw me, not as a broken thing, but as a person worth saving. Riva's eyes filled with tears, but she kept speaking. The humans taught me many things. They taught me their language. They taught me their work. But most importantly, they taught me that my worth is not decided by others. It is not measured by what I can or cannot do. It exists simply because I exist, because I think and feel and hope and dream. She stood up straighter. My people called me the Silent One. They said I had no voice, no song, no soul. But I am speaking now. I am telling my story. I have found my voice. Not the voice my people wanted, but a voice that is mine. And I will use it to say this: no being should be left to die because they are different. No being should be called worthless because they do not fit the pattern others expect. She looked directly into the camera, at the council members watching across the stars. I do not ask you to change my people's ways. That is not your right, and it is not mine either. But I ask you to remember this moment. Remember that somewhere in the galaxy, a human saw a dying stranger and chose to help. Remember that kindness can come from the most unexpected places. And remember that every life has value, even the lives that others throw away. The transmission ended. Riva collapsed back into her chair, exhausted. Do-Hyun reached over and squeezed her hand. That was perfect, he said softly. You were perfect. The council's decision came quickly. Riva's asylum was confirmed and strengthened. The attack on the outpost was condemned in the strongest terms. Chiron and his warriors would face full prosecution under Union law. And most importantly, the council issued a formal statement recognizing the rights of all sentient beings, regardless of physical ability or cultural status. It was not a revolution. It would not change the Vallani overnight. But it was a beginning, a crack in the wall that had stood for thousands of years. Weeks later, when Do-yun was fully healed, they sat together on the roof of the outpost. The night sky was clear, full of stars. The air was cool and fresh. "What will you do now?" Do-hyun asked. Reva thought about the question. She had been thinking about it a lot lately. She had her citizenship. She had her freedom. She could go anywhere in the galaxy. "I want to help others," she said. Her voice was stronger now, almost normal. "Others like me. The ones who are thrown away because they do not fit. I want to find them and tell them what you told me. That they matter. That they are not broken. That they deserve to live." Do-yun smiled. "That sounds like a good plan. Will you come with me?" The question surprised him. He looked at her large, dark eyes full of hope and determination, at this small, fierce woman who had survived everything her world had thrown at her and emerged stronger than anyone had thought possible. "Yes," he said, "I'll come with you." Reva smiled, a real, full smile that lit up her whole face. She leaned against his shoulder and they sat together in comfortable silence, watching the stars turn overhead. Somewhere out there, across the vast darkness of space, there were others like her. Silent ones, broken ones, thrown away ones. They were waiting in the shadows, believing they were worthless, waiting for the end. But now someone was coming for them. Someone who understood their pain. Someone who knew that being different was not the same as being less. Reva looked up at the stars and made a silent promise. She would find them. She would help them. She would give them the words she had been given. "You are safe here. You are not broken. You matter." The story was not over. It was just beginning. And for the first time in her life, Reva was ready to write it herself.